Thank you, Tumaini, very much. So we have discussions, just like the way I said before, that we need to hear from you, your opinions and things like that, or any question that you have to our two esteemed presenters. So to start with? Sure. Any questions based on this presentation? Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. My name is Sheila Mrindoko from ICT Park Solutions Limited, an IT company. My question goes to Mr. Kileo. You demonstrated on the proper ways of implementing critical security controls. Now, I would like to know, in your experience, what are the common challenges organizations face when implementing critical security controls, and how can they overcome them? Or I can say, you can give the challenges, but also you can incite us of the common mistakes that organizations make when implementing these security controls, and how they can avoid these mistakes. But also in the presentation, you talked about application software security. I would like to understand, or I would like to know, how do you balance, or how can an organization, especially an IT company, like for example us, ICT Park, who we develop different software applications. I would like to understand how can we balance the need of security with the need of usability and functionalities in this application design, because in my perspective, I understand sometimes when you put in some controls in the applications that you're making, it might at some point limit the usage, or an application can be termed as hard to use for some users just because of some security controls that have been implemented. So I'd like to know, how can we balance that so that we can have an inclusive security space.
Now, yeah, there's a hand over there. Yeah, we are taking another 4 questions, and then they will respond.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Susan Paul Mwame. I'm from Malim Space Organization, and my question goes to Mr. Yusuph Kileo. My question is, what considerations should organizations take into account when selecting and customizing critical security controls to align with their specific risk profile and business needs? And also another question is, are there any emerging trends or technologies that are reshaping the landscape of critical security controls, and how organizations adapt to these changes? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to congratulate our presenter. My name is Ibrahim Sultani. I'm a Principal ICT Officer from Ngorongoro. I don't have a question inside, but I want to add a little stake on the critical infrastructure. Of course, based on my experience, one of the challenge most of the organizations face based on a critical infrastructure is actually also to have effective security policy. As we know, security policy actually is the foundation of security infrastructure, which means the policy has to describe how the security will be implemented actually in the organization. But what I see is most of the organizations have the police, but the police are there for the compliance purpose or for the auditor and want to help the organization to achieve security goals. Mr. Kileo also talked about cybersecurity awareness training. It's actually very important, and another challenge is nowadays most of the organizations, they do training, but there is a part to evaluate your employee who perform competent tasks if they understand what about training and security awareness. Now, instead of focus more on a compliance purpose, we need now to figure out, like, the document we have, can we put in practical, okay? This will help most of the organization, but most of the organization nowadays, they focus more on the compliance part than to put in the practical. Thank you.
Okay. Another one?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Baraka Opio. And first of all, I commend Mr. Kileo for such an insightful presentation. Mine is a quick one. When we talk of the critical controls, specifically based on the CIS controls, now we talk of emerging risks like artificial intelligence, how can we, or rather, how can the critical controls adapt when it comes to the negative use of artificial intelligence, or rather the emerging risks in the negative sense that come with the use of artificial intelligence to sophisticate attacks, or rather cyber attacks towards the infrastructure? And a follow-up question on that: how can we leverage now, in a positive way, the use of of artificial intelligence specifically, and other emerging technologies to have a good cyber security posture for our organization and the country at large? Thank you.
The last question. Thank you. Baraka Meremo. I'm a student from University of Dodoma, and I'm final year student pursuing Bachelor of Science in Cybersecurity and Digital Forensics Engineering. And I have 3 questions, and they all go to Mr. Yusuph Kileo. My first question is, according to the DOT's last month's report, March, the fintech ecosystem of the banks have lost more than 10 billion shillings. So I was asking, don't we see us as a country in need of having a national bug bounty program? For example, countries such as India have their national bug bounty program. And also, I don't know that Vodacom are having a bug bounty program, but they are having it with Hakarana company in US. So us as Tanzania, don't we see a need of having our national bug bounty program? That is question number 1. And then question number 2, concerning I as a student of digital forensics, cybersecurity and digital forensics engineering, and you, Mr. Kileo, a digital forensic investigator or profession, don't you see a need of Tanzania registering the private digital forensic investigators, or Tanzania having its own Tanzania cybersecurity authority, such as with countries like Rwanda and Kenya? Thanks.
Yeah, we complete.
Good afternoon. My name is Nectar Richard, and I had a question to Mr. Mohammed. What advancements or developments can we expect to see in Huawei's cybersecurity and compliance methodologies? Thank you.
So I think maybe you can respond now. We'll go for another round of questions, but you can respond now and then. Yeah, maybe you can start to respond now.
All right, good afternoon. I think
Good afternoon once again.
Thank you for your question. There are too many for me. I'll start with Sheila. She spoke of applications. Developer. We develop applications and softwares to be used by individuals. And then we have that usability. They should be friendly, they should function well, but at the same time, we should also think of security. I personally participated in a number of operations on applications that end up shutting down hundreds of applications because of these small problems. And sometimes back when Uber was to fall, when they developed the application, they were unable to protect people's data, and then around 2-point-something data of an individuals in the UK happened to be with criminals, and then later on, that's when the Uber collapses, and then Bolt and the rest start coming up. What I'm trying to say is that when you develop an app, you should always, first of all, minimize collection of data. Only those necessary for you to operate. For example, you are talking of, let's say, Bolt. Location is very important for people to know that I'm moving from one point to another. But then, if an app that probably, like for example the one I mentioned, the thread, you want to know my health status, you want to know my location, you want to know my calendar, you want to know my contacts, etc., etc. It are around 12 things they take from us. So you do not minimize that collection of that. That's why in EU today, you hear Meta paying 1.3 billion, you hear Google and so on, having a lot of challenges. Google was having an issue with location, tracking people, even if they do not want to be tracked. So I think as you develop your application and software, you need to pay attention on these particular things. Make sure, first of all, to protect the data you collect and secure your application properly. And second, minimize the collection of data that you're collecting from people. Only necessary data, you should have them in place. Number 2, it was from Susan. Consideration to think, and was it consideration? And if I can share some of the challenges that implementing security controls organization faces. We have different type of organization: medium, small, big companies, company with sensitive data, less sensitive data, etc. We have different varieties of organizations. So when you are thinking of implementing, but also we have organizations, for example, either they don't have certain kind of devices or certain kind of, for example, wireless. I went to one organization the other time, and they don't have even the storage wireless installed in their organizations. So we encourage people to do a thorough analysis of what kind of data do they have, what challenges probably they most likely to reach to their organization, and so on, for them now to make a robust decision on how to implement, or what kind of implementation, or how they can implement those security controls. The challenges that I've seen most of the time, people speak of fund, and it is true. When we talk about ICT, most of the time, fund is a challenge. They can't do awareness, they can't go and do review of their policies and regulations, they can't do capacity building, they can't do this and that. Why? If you ask them, fund is a problem. But fund cannot be a problem if you can demonstrate properly the challenge we have. I remember yesterday I was with DG, my good friend from CRDB. We had a lengthy discussion on cybersecurity. When I was trying to rush, he kept telling me, usinikimbie, ngoja, every time. He wants to know, what can we do? So I think all leaders, they experience these challenges. We lose money. We find probably people shut down our electricity. People destabilize our equilibrium in our water system, and so on and so on. How do we get out of it? If we can explain it properly, tell them exactly, these challenges are like this is the trend landscape, these are the way forward, and so on and so on, I think the fund will not be a big problem. And once you are given the fund to resolve the problem, then do it well. Do it properly. Because sometimes you are given 50,000 to do a solution of certain problem, you end up finishing all the money in a meeting, and they can't see the result. Tomorrow they will never give you another fund. Make sure you focus on the result for you to get things done next time. Ibrahim, my brother, he spoke of PPT clearly, policies, regulations, the one I spoke of. We have people, processes, and technology. And he spoke on awareness, and I want to add one thing. It's not only about awareness. Effective way of doing that awareness. That you can do what we call evaluation and be able to tell that people were in this stage before I do awareness, and after doing this awareness, they move to another stage. But if you don't do that, then awareness will not be effective, you can't see the impact of it, and it will be a problem for you to, even to convince next time for you to get the same thing. So effective awareness program, it has 7 elements. I remember Tisseray asked me of it some times back, and I shared with them. I won't share all of them now because of time. But one of the most important things we normally say, awareness should be entertaining. We don't expect you to be very boring. Because awareness is to everyone. People, this is not their interest. They are not interested. They may do better, but I normally say artificial intelligence, as an emerging technology, my good friend here and brother knows better of this subject. Artificial intelligence comes, yes, with the risks. One of the major risks is that cybercrime today become extremely sophisticated because of the story of artificial intelligence, IoTs, and 5Gs. And why is it? Because now the phishing email, we used to tell people that look at the spellings, look at the error, this and that. Now, to an extent, Biden decided to call Putin for a proper meeting to discuss how you cannot attack our critical infrastructure. It was a popular meeting that was aired by many media houses. So it's a big problem. We agree that we have this is a serious challenge. Big tech like Facebook, Meta, and the likes fall victims. And we need to do something about it. And why? What should we do? We have this big forum that we sit and discuss things at length. When we get out of here, my call is that take note, go and implement. Because we have one problem, we hear, we talk, we understand, but when we go to our organization, we don't implement what we discussed of. And then that's when the things keep on getting or falling apart. He spoke about registration of digital forensics investigator private, the last thing before if I forget anyone, apology. He spoke about registration. I remember during my time at Cybercrime Unit, we had a serious debate on the same. And we have private security company, like 4G something, I remember. We had a number of meetings with them then. And Mwema was very positive on the subject. That and you remember he came with a slogan, of Police Jamii, if you remember. It was during that time, all high discussion we had, that the matter of security, we need to involve many people. Everyone has to play parts. But then we need to have regulations. We need to properly regulate those individuals who are not in a law enforcement. I think that's where now we couldn't finalize it well until we part to that. Mwema left, I think, before that. Myself left before that happened. But I believe there is still room. I see a lot of discussion on the same, and probably we can push it to support, because private investigator may do sometimes somewhere that it's like Police Jamii, where you can't do well as a proper organ, other people can complement and do something in a better way. PPP, I think, is where we are moving to that direction, and I think that might happen, and I believe it might even happen very soon. After saying so, allowing me to finish, I think I've touched many of things that have been highlighted. If I left anything, apologies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kileo. There's one thing that I wanted to add before you start on that, especially with the report that more than 10 billion has been being the results of a cyber attack. But I think there's something we need to discuss in this forum. If in a banking system, you transfer 10 billion from account A to account B, how comes you never know? Is it really a cyber attack, or is it an internal thing? Because there's a confusion made with many people. They take every type of scenario as a cyber attack, but while there's some other thing, people are using social engineering. You find there are people inside an institution transferring those funds. Because as far as I understand, banks normally used to have certain amount limitation of the money that they're supposed to have in a day. How can you transfer 10 billion without noticing it? I think that's a question we need to ask ourselves. That are these really the product of cyber attack, someone from outside transferring those funds? And the question comes is, okay, when you transfer fund, where are you cashing out? Because it has to be bank-to-bank transaction. So I think maybe this is a platform to start to discuss more about that. Please, welcome. Yes, yes.
I agree we need a long discussion on the subject, and we need also to have a broader definition of cyber attacks, because when we talk about cyber attacks, can be internally or externally. All these people, they do, because cyber attack is not all the time from outside. It will be cyber attacks from within. That's why we call insider threats a part of a cyber attack. Social engineering, it's a part of cyber attacks. So it's a broader thing that I agree that we need to have a strong discussion, because the main aim of this meeting at the end, I believe we need to get out of here knowing that how we can minimize the challenges we experience as a nation. And of course, borrow, if we have people from outside as well, borrow the same knowledge for them also to go and implement scenarios that will minimize the challenges. And the problem with this cyber attack, we don't really speak of them. They're not really reported. We can't hear them. We were having a meeting. We speak about many challenges that we normally hear. The story that people kill, people break into a bank and so on, which is no longer happening. But now the soft side of it, which is cyber attacks, we normally don't talk. I think this is where now we need to raise our voices and see how we can address these issues at length to minimize the challenge instead of sugarcoating issues. Thank you.
Please go on.
Okay, thank you very much.
One question.
Yes, I have one question. So, my sister, again, your name, please? Sorry? Nectar. Okay, it's written there. Okay, Nectar. So, when we talk about advancement, right, on cybersecurity, so advancement comes with technology, right? You cannot advance something which is already there and it's working perfectly. So with the technology that we are having, right, we will have more standards, right? For example, 5G, AI, I see many people talk about AI. So we will have more standards from different organizations for example, GDPR, and as Huawei, I think I'm answering this as Huawei, right? As Huawei, so we will be forced to follow those standards that are set globally. You understand? So I can also tell you that we internally also have our own rules, but we follow whichever is stricter, right? So if the GDP, for example, has a rule or a law, but our internal is more stricter, so we will follow the stricter one just to be safe. You understand? And then also requirements from different stakeholders and parties, organizations, governments also makes us advance more and improve on whatever that we had. Again, I talked about self-audit, that we also have our own self-audits. We have tools that we audit ourselves. We audit our technologies just to make sure that day by day we advance and there's nothing that we are missing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think a part of our timetable is there's a session for lunch, and we have to do justice for that so that we can create room for other discussions. So I thank everyone for very live discussion that we had in this first session, and I'll give back to Tumaini.
Thank you so much, Moderator Dr. Nkundwe. Yes, Yusuf, you can go down now. Yeah, I would like to thank you, our presenters and the moderator, for the panel discussion and the question from audience. Obviously, we are running out of time. Obviously, we're meant to go for lunch at 1:20 but it's almost 2 o'clock now. We're approaching 2 o'clock, so we're gonna break for lunch. But before we break for lunch, I would like to make 2 announcements. The first announcement will be for our fellow